History is filled with tales of kings and queens, of conquest, diplomacy, and intrigue. But some stories are darker, stranger, or more tragic than others. One of the most unusual and most gruesome involves a monarch whose own indulgence and obsession with food may have contributed to his demise. Known to some as a cautionary tale of excess, he has earned the moniker the king who ate himself to death. This story, inspired by the life of Charles II of Navarre, offers a glimpse into the opulence, decadence, and dangers of medieval royal life. Charles II, also called Charles the Bad, ruled Navarre in the 14th century, a small kingdom nestled between France and Spain. His reign was defined by ambition, intrigue, and betrayal. He was clever and ruthless, earning a reputation for scheming against kings and nobles alike. But alongside his political cunning, there existed a personal obsession: his relationship with food and luxury. To understand the fate of this ill-fated king, we must first step into the world of medieval royal courts. In the Middle Ages, kings and nobles displayed power not only through armies and castles, but also through feasts. Lavish meals were social and political events. Banquets were opportunities to impress allies, intimidate rivals, and demonstrate wealth. Exotic spices, roasted meats, sugar, and imported delicacies were symbols of status. For Charles, these meals became an obsession. Chroniclers note that he was indulgent, consuming quantities of rich foods that would have overwhelmed any ordinary stomach. Charles' diet was typical for a medieval monarch, but his appetite was extraordinary. Breakfasts, lunches, and dinners were extravagant affairs. Roasted meats, pies filled with game, sweet pastries, and wines flowed endlessly. But what set him apart was not the variety of dishes, it was the sheer volume. Reports suggest he often ate alone, focused entirely on the pleasure of consumption, disregarding etiquette or moderation. While a typical noble might attend multiple courses, Charles seemed driven by an almost compulsive hunger, eating beyond what the body could endure. The consequences of such indulgence were severe. Chroniclers of the time described Charles as corpulent, suffering from digestive issues, gout, and other illnesses associated with overconsumption. In an era without modern medicine, these conditions were not easily managed. Remedies were limited to purges, herbal concoctions, or prayer. Meanwhile, his obsession with food persisted, creating a vicious cycle. The more he indulged, the worse his health became. Yet he could not resist the pleasures of the table. Charles' story also serves as a window into medieval attitudes toward excess. Gluttony was one of the 7 deadly sins, a moral failing as well as a physical danger. Yet for kings, indulgence was also a demonstration of power. To eat and drink lavishly was to display dominance and wealth. In this context, Charles' overconsumption was both a personal vice and a reflection of the culture in which he lived, a court that valued opulence as a sign of sovereignty. But indulgence can be fatal. Over time, Charles' health deteriorated. The combination of gout, obesity, and digestive stress weakened his body, leaving him vulnerable to other ailments. Reports suggest that in his final days, he experienced severe pain, unable to move comfortably, burdened by the very body he had pampered for so long. Whether he literally ate himself to death is a matter of legend, but the metaphor is apt. His demise was the culmination of a lifetime of excess and obsession. Charles' end also highlights the dangers of unchecked indulgence in a period before medical intervention. Today, we might treat obesity or digestive disorders with diet, exercise, and surgery. In the 14th century, such options didn't exist. Kings were expected to continue their duties regardless of health, and indulgence was rewarded socially and politically. This tension between duty, desire, and immortality defined his tragic narrative. Yet the story is more than a tale of personal excess. It reflects the pressures of medieval monarchy. A king like Charles was constantly navigating threats, alliances, and rebellions. For some rulers, food was comfort, a rare pleasure in a life filled with intrigue. In this sense, his obsession may have been both indulgence and escape, a way to assert control over something tangible in a world full of uncertainty. Charles' legacy is as complicated as his life. Politically, he was ruthless, often betraying allies and negotiating with enemies to expand his influence. Yet his personal story overshadows these achievements. Chroniclers remembered him not just as a schemer or a warrior, but as a man undone by his own appetites, a vivid cautionary tale about the limits of human indulgence. Interestingly, Charles' tale has echoes in other royal histories. Monarchs throughout Europe struggled with similar excesses, from feasts in Versailles to banquets in the Tudor court. Overconsumption was a recurring theme, often resulting in ill health or early death. Charles' story stands out not only for its severity, but for the vividness with which chroniclers recounted his downfall, painting a portrait of gluttony that borders on the grotesque. Historians also note that the mythos of Charles as the king who ate himself to death serves as a moral lesson. Medieval chroniclers often framed tales of indulgent kings as warnings about the dangers of excess, the importance of moderation, and the inevitability of mortality. In this sense, his story is both biography and parable, a reflection of human vulnerability, amplified by the privileges and pressures of royalty. Despite the grim nature of his demise, Charles' life is also a testament to the human fascination with luxury and pleasure. His feasts, opulence, and indulgences reveal a man who sought to experience life to its fullest, even at the cost of his health. In this way, his story resonates across the centuries. The tension between desire and survival, between indulgence and discipline, is timeless. Ultimately, the life and death of Charles II of Navarre remind us that history is not only shaped by battles and politics, but also by human frailty. The king who ate himself to death is a symbol of the extremes of indulgence and the consequences of ignoring the body as limits. While we may never know the precise details of his final days, the legend endures as a vivid illustration of excess, ambition, and immortality intertwined. Today, his story continues to fascinate historians and the public alike. It serves as a reminder that the lives of kings were not immune to human weakness. Even those with wealth, power, and resources could fall victim to the simplest of human indulgences, the desire to eat. In this Charles' tale is both unique and universal, a tragic yet compelling chapter in the annals of history. So when we reflect on the great monarchs of the past, let us remember not only their battles and conquests, but also their humanity. Some fell to war, others to disease, and some, like Charles II of Navarre, to their own appetites. His legacy endures, a story of ambition, indulgence, and a cautionary lesson that even kings are mortal and sometimes their greatest enemies are their own desires.